I found a lake half hidden in the forest, almost by chance. It seemed like a place forgotten by time, where peace reigned. The calm waters reflected the last rays of the sun, creating a golden scene of peace. The surrounding trees were tall and ancient, as if they held secrets from the past. There, sitting on the edge of the dirt road, I felt completely in tune with nature, far from the noise of the city. The light breeze blew through the branches as I cast my line, hoping to catch some fish and, who knows, some peace of mind. Every movement was careful, and every breath felt like a problem. It was as if the lake hid something beyond its calm surface, something I hadn't imagined. I found myself completely absorbed by the tranquility of the lake when something unexpected broke the peace. Just as I was preparing my line for another fishing attempt, my eyes caught a sudden movement to my left. I instinctively turned around and saw a dark figure forcefully throwing a large, mysterious barrel into the calm waters of the lake. The object made a dull splash as it sank, letting small ripples spread across the surface before disappearing into the darkness below. The stranger didn't notice my presence until it was too late. The instant my eyes met the intruder's, a shiver ran down my spine. His back was to me, but I felt his tension as he slowly turned to face my disbelief. "What did you do?" I shouted, my voice echoing across the solitude of the lake. He hesitated for a moment, eyes searching for an answer that didn't come. "It's not what you think," he finally murmured, with a tone that didn't convince even himself. Before I could say anything else, he turned his back and ran through the dark woods, leaving me alone with my doubts and a barrel that floated like a silent accusation on the water. My hands were shaking as I tried to process what had just happened. Who was that man? What had he thrown into the lake and why? Questions swirled through my mind, as insistent as the ripples dissipating on the now calm surface of the lake. The night brought with it a restlessness that I couldn't ignore. As the minutes dragged on and the darkness deepened around the lake, the image of the unknown man and the thrown barrel continued to haunt my thoughts. Every shadow in the forest seemed a grim reminder of that disturbing scene. I decided to act. I took out my cell phone and, with shaking hands, dialed the emergency number. I explained to the police what I had witnessed, every detail meticulously recorded in my racing mind. The attendant's voice, calm and professional, brought me a little relief as they promised to send a patrol to investigate the place. Additionally, I contacted the Department of Environmental Protection. I explained the situation, concerned about the impact the unknown contents of the barrel could have on the lake's ecosystem. The initial bureaucracy was disconcerting, but I persisted, determined to ensure that all necessary measures were taken to protect the environment and uncover the truth behind this inexplicable act. As I waited for authorities to arrive, I felt a mixture of anxiety and hope that the investigation might bring answers and an end to the mystery unfolding before me that dark night. As I anxiously awaited the arrival of authorities, my mind continued to speculate about the contents of the mysterious barrel. A dark suspicion began to form. What if inside that barrel there was not just trash or toxic substances, but something much more sinister? The thought that there might be a body there enveloped my thoughts with a chill. The lake, which moments ago had been a serene refuge, now seemed to hold secrets far darker than I could have ever imagined. The concern about the environmental impact was real, but the fear of what might be discovered inside that abandoned container was even more disturbing. Every ripple on the lake's surface felt like a silent echo of the uncertainty and tension that had built up on that tense, restless night. The night was slowly advancing, enveloping the lake in a thick, oppressive darkness. The sounds of the forest became more acute and strange, as if nature also sensed the ominous presence that was approaching. It was then that irregular knocks echoed through the darkness, interrupting the silence of the night. First, it was a light tap on the window of my lakeside cottage, as if someone was testing the strength of the glass. My muscles instantly contracted, my heart beating wildly in my chest. Before I could muster up the courage to investigate, a louder sound echoed from the front door, as if someone was knocking impatiently. A chill ran down my spine as I slowly stood up, each step echoing on the wooden floor of the cabin. The dim light of the flashlight flickered in my hands as I peered out the window, but all I saw was the impenetrable darkness of the night. Each beat seemed to carry a greater weight of suspense and paranoia, fueling my uneasiness with the uncertainty of what I would find outside. With my heart still racing from the mysterious beats, I hesitated before opening the door. The flickering light of the flashlight illuminated a familiar face, now contorted in a mixture of despair and fear. It was him, the same man I had confronted at the lake, now standing before me with his hands raised in surrender. "Everything is not as it seems," he murmured quickly, his eyes fixed on mine with a disturbing intensity. His voice wavered as he tried to find the right words to explain himself, but each sentence seemed to only increase my distrust and uneasiness. Shadows danced around him, casting an aura of mystery over his true intentions. As he spoke, a feeling of imminent danger settled inside me. His presence in my isolated refuge, under such strange circumstances, awakened a primal instinct of self-defense. I wanted to believe his words, but the truth hung like a dark shadow over our conversation. His identity revelation only increased my feeling of vulnerability and the certainty that there was something much more sinister behind this whole situation. The tension in the air was palpable as I pondered the words of the man in front of me. Every self-preservation instinct in me screamed not to trust him, despite his attempts to explain himself. With the flashlight still shaking in my hands, I made the final decision. "I can't risk it," I muttered to myself, more to reinforce my own resolve than to answer the man. My fingers quickly tapped the police emergency number on my cell phone, concisely and urgently explaining the situation I was facing. The man before me remained silent, his eyes fixed on mine as I spoke to the operator. Tensions rose further when the police's promise to send a team was made on the other end of the line. The uncertainty of what was to come weighed on me as I waited, aware that the danger had not yet passed and that my actions could trigger unpredictable consequences. The operator's voice was a welcome relief, but the uneasiness persisted. The night, now thick and silent around the lake, seemed frozen in suspense as I held the flashlight steady, illuminating the figure of the man who had brought chaos to my isolated peace. The wait for the police to arrive was silent agony, each second dragging on like an eternity. The unknown man had disappeared into the darkness of the surrounding forest, leaving behind only unanswered questions and an atmosphere of suspense that intensified with each passing moment. The light from the flashlight trembled in my hands, anxiously illuminating my surroundings as I awaited news from authorities. The minutes turned into hours, but the silence persisted. The distant sound of branches snapping under the officers' feet was the only sign of their tireless search. Each time hope flared with a suspicious noise, it was quickly dispelled by the reality that the man remained just out of reach. Frustration was growing inside me, mixed with a growing feeling of helplessness in the face of the situation. Uncertainty about the intruder's whereabouts heightened my paranoia, every shadow and movement in the darkness turning into a potential threat. The night that had begun with the promise of tranquility had now turned into a mental battlefield, where fear and distrust fought for my sanity. As the police continued their fruitless search, the weight of the dark night seemed to press down on my shoulders, cruelly reminding me that the danger was still out there, waiting patiently in the shadows. As the night wore on and the police search continued without success, a feeling of growing uneasiness came over me. Every shadow in the dark corners of the cabin seemed to hide a piercing gaze, as if the unknown man's eyes were still fixed on me. The paranoia intensified with every moment, turning every insignificant noise into a warning sign. My footsteps echoed on the wooden floor as I walked back and forth, the flashlight now a constant companion to ward off the oppressive darkness. Each gust of wind made the trees whisper among themselves, as if they were sharing secrets I couldn't understand. The feeling of being watched was so real that I found myself checking the windows and doors repeatedly, half hoping, half fearing to find the intruder's face pressed against the glass. My mind revisited the moments of confrontation at the lake, the man's incomplete words echoing like a disturbing echo. He was still out there, somewhere in the darkness, and the idea that he might be secretly watching me filled my heart with palpable anxiety. Every moment without news from the police was a torment, an agonizing wait for a resolution that seemed increasingly distant. The cabin, once my haven of peace, now felt like a claustrophobic prison, surrounded by a forest that had turned into an eerie maze. Every shadow moving beyond the walls was a potential threat, a grim reminder that the danger had not disappeared with the fall of night. With the lingering feeling of being watched, I decided to investigate further into the mysterious barrel incident. I mentally reviewed every detail of that day at the lake, the man's features, his disjointed words and the way he hurriedly fled. Each piece of the puzzle seemed more disturbing the more I tried to fit them together. Internet searches for similar incidents or reports of suspicious activity in the region yielded no conclusive results. The mystery surrounding the barrel continued without clear answers, fueling my obsession with discovering the truth behind that sinister object. In parallel, I maintained constant contact with the authorities, seeking updates on the investigation. Each call was met with a mix of hope and apprehension as I awaited news on the police's progress in locating the unknown man. Meanwhile, the cabin continued to be a hotbed of tension and paranoia. Every shadow moving beyond the windows was a reason for me to mentally prepare myself for the worst, aware that the truth could reveal itself at any moment, bringing with it answers I might prefer not to know. After days of intense waiting and investigation, a police officer finally brought news that made my heart freeze. The unknown man had been located not far from the lake, and with him, disturbing evidence was found. The barrel, when opened, revealed itself not just as an empty container, but as a capsule of horror. Inside was a collection of strange and disturbing objects, including ancient documents and ritual relics. The man's intentions, as explained during the interrogation, were even more sinister than I could have imagined. He confessed to being involved in dark practices and having brought objects to the lake that supposedly contained supernatural powers. His presence in my solitary refuge was not a coincidence, but part of a macabre ritual that was now being uncovered by the authorities. The revelation of the truth left me stunned and haunted. Everything I thought was just a series of disconnected events now fit together into a disturbing narrative of intrigue and danger. The cottage, once my place of peace, had turned into a dark stage where forces beyond human understanding had secretly operated. As the case was investigated further, I found myself confronting not only the fear of the unknown, but also the painful realization that the world around me contained secrets and dangers that I was barely beginning to understand. The lake, now shrouded in an atmosphere of mystery and intrigue, became a dark reminder that the truth could be scarier than any fiction I had ever imagined. After the disturbing discovery of the barrel's contents and the unknown man's sinister intentions, my world came crashing down in a maelstrom of fear and distrust. The police were on high alert, and I found myself once again at the center of a whirlwind of inexplicable events. It was during an unsettling night, when the moon cast long shadows across the cottage, that the final confrontation took place. I was no longer willing to passively wait for answers that might never come. Determined to confront the man and demand an explanation, I prepared myself for what could be the most harrowing encounter of my life. The man emerged from the shadows like an enigmatic figure, his eyes heavy with the weight of ancient secrets. The tension was palpable, charged with the energy of events that transcended human understanding. I knew I was facing something bigger than I could fully understand. Why did you bring these things to the lake? What did you intend to do? I questioned, my voice echoing in the silence of the night. He looked at me with an indefinable expression, as if he was debating with himself whether he should reveal the truth. It was then that secrets began to unfold, words loaded with hidden meaning and revelations that shook my understanding of the world. Man explained his beliefs in forces beyond human reason, in powers that could be invoked through ancient rituals. His motives, although distorted and disturbing, began to make sense within a context of obsession and despair. As he spoke, a shadow fell over us, an ominous presence that seemed to confirm the horror stories he had shared. The confrontation was not just physical, but a battle of wills between the known and the unknown, between fear and the determination to face the truth. What happened next changed my life forever, bringing to light truths I never expected to face. The man, with his grim expression and one last look of regret, disappeared into the darkness, leaving me with more questions than answers. The night ended, but the emotional scars of that experience would continue to haunt me, reminding me of the fragility of our understanding of the world and the darkness that can lurk within each of us. After the harrowing events at the lake and the confrontations with the mysterious man, my mind was immersed in a sea of reflections. Sitting in the cottage that once provided me with tranquility, was now a place filled with dark memories and deep questions. The truth revealed about the barrel and the objects inside it could not be easily accepted. They were fragments of a hidden and unknown world, where ancient rituals and dark beliefs were intertwined in a tapestry of fear and mystery. I had been drawn into a reality I preferred to ignore, confronting the existence of forces beyond my understanding. The lessons learned were hard and profound. The experience showed me the fragility of our perception of reality and the ease with which we can be drawn into the abysses of the unknown. The search for truth, as terrifying as it can be, has become an inevitable journey, a journey toward deeper understanding of myself and the world around me. In the silence of the night, as the shadows danced on the walls of the cottage, I promised myself to remain vigilant against the inexplicable, always looking for the light of reason amid the darkness of superstition and fear. The disturbing events were a grim reminder that, no matter how hard we try, there are mysteries that can escape our understanding, challenging our certainties and peeling back the veil that separates the known from the unknown. So, with a sigh of resignation mixed with determination, I prepared to move forward, carrying with me the emotional scars of that journey and the wisdom gained in the search for truth. As the sun set over the lake, enveloping the cottage in golden gloom, I found myself contemplating what had occurred. The revealed truth brought some peace, but it also triggered a new set of questions. The man mysteriously disappeared before he could be fully confronted, leaving a void of answers that would remain with me for a long time. Experience has taught me that not all stories have a definitive ending. The mystery surrounding the events of that night would continue to echo in the silence of the cabin and in the darkest corners of my mind. It was as if a thin curtain separated the known world from the unknown, a curtain that I now knew was permeable and fragile. As I closed the cabin door for the last time, I felt a thrill of anticipation mixed with apprehension. The lake, now calm and serene, seemed to hide secrets that no human eye could fully penetrate. And as I walked away, a part of me knew that the mystery lay not just in the barrel or in the actions of the unknown man, but also in the complexity of life and the inevitable encounter with the unknown that we all face. And so, I left the cabin and the lake behind, taking with me the memories of a journey that transformed me. The public, when reflecting on this story, is invited to consider the consequences of actions motivated by the unknown and the shadows that inhabit the darkest corners of the human mind. For ultimately, it is between the lines of the mystery that we find not only terror, but also the opportunity for growth and deeper understanding of what it means to be human.